DK, I don't know where your head was at in terms of, I think you were in agreement with me in terms of Drake May and how like you should probably wait as long as possible to start him with based on what you saw in just 1 week of football. If they can play like this, is there any reason to rush Drake May into a starting position this year?
If you can sustain the O line, the thing about Brissett, I know he said he was like crying on his way to the stadium or whatever the fuck that was all about. But
Mine too.
the the sorry, I only read it for like briefly. I don't know what the context is, but I was like, stop
No,
crying.
I mean, I'll tell you why I was crying. I was crying because he was going to be the starting quarterback. But
Fair. That's probably why he was crying too. But I would just say like he's a crash test dummy, so you can't put him out there until you watch the O line protect your investment for like I don't know at least 4 games, like
right.
like an IR PUP type time span, right? Like we just need to see that he's not going to die if he goes out there, and then yeah, I mean fuck it if you've won 3 games out of your first 5 and the O line looks like it can protect him and the QB play from Brissett hasn't been stunning. It hasn't. I mean, look, I think the most important thing in his stat line, I would say this about Caleb Williams too. I'll say this about Justin Fields. The absolute most important thing in the stat line is that goose-egg interception. I think that is how like a quarterback can kill you. Obviously, like that's nothing anyone doesn't know, but you can win a game in other ways if he does that for you. If he throws 0 interceptions, so he hasn't done anything wrong. But like, would you, if week 5, if this is pretty much the level of QB play you're getting from him, but you're winning games, is it that crazy to think like, wow, we're winning games? Like it'd be pretty sick if like Drake May went in there and also like
So you
really
would
good QB play. It'd be hard to resist if I was in your position. I think.
So if they're 3-3 going into week 7, you would start Drake May.
If they're 3-3 going into week 7 with 2 provisions, one, sack numbers are low. Right.
Yep.
Sack numbers are low, and it's because he has time, not because he's like crafty and is like runs for his life well.
Which he isn't.
Which he isn't because he's slow. I mean, he chose the exact right times to go for those scrambles, and I think that's often more important than really being super explosive. But yeah, if that provision is there and those advanced analytics really like say Drake May shouldn't die if he goes in there, let's see. And additionally, if a couple of those games were close enough that you can sort of say to yourself, like, if we had a little bit better QB play, if it's justifiable. If it's justifiable, then yeah. And you'll know when it is. And a big part of it's going to be that O-line, because like what could happen is in 2 weeks, you could be like, oh my God, don't let him go in there. Jesus Christ. Like he'll die. No way.
Yeah. I mean, I've jokingly said, I don't know if I said this in a group chat or if I said this elsewhere, but I had a worker theory that Brissett gets knocked out on the sideline on September 19th, week 3 versus the Jets.
That would be prophetic.
That it would be poetic. Like that's how it has to happen. Like that's how it has to happen. He's gonna go for a run on the sideline. CJ Mosley or whoever Sauce Gardner is gonna knock him out of bounds. And they're gonna say, "Oh man, Brissett's on the sideline. Like what happened?" Drake May comes in and bam, baby. Like the rest is history. But all jokes aside, like I feel like eventually we may have to see him later on this year, pun intended. I just think that if you're looking to have the passing game as an actual threat, right? Because now if you continue to run the ball for 120, 130, as they could easily do with Stevenson, I think he's that good. I've been on the bandwagon since he's been here in New England. So is Mike and the rest of us that are pass fans in the group. But you're going to eventually start putting A in the box if you know that's all you're going to do, right? And if you're saying that 121 is the ceiling, like that's gross. I'm already set. Like I'm all set. So I'd rather have the eventual threat of that. Once again, I think I'd rather have all the options available. So I think that once Bourne is back and then Booty and Osborne, like have everybody available before you're like, yo, let me throw them out there. But if the line continues to hold up and you have all the weapons available, like why not give it a shot? If that's the case.
Yeah. Listen, to your point,
to
both of your earlier points, like that you run to set up the pass. I 100% agree with that. Once you start putting 8 in the box, though, you have to be able to pass, or else they're going to get you, right? And I don't know, like Jacoby, I don't think Brissett's going to lose you a game. I really don't. But I also don't think he's going to win you one. And so the way that I think about this, though, is that if through 7 weeks, 8 weeks, you're 500 or you're one game below. I think Brissett is doing enough he's earned the right to play out the year.
Mm-hmm.
Continue to build and implement the new system with Alex Van Pelt, and continue to teach Drake Maye that system in practice, because it's only going to get better next year, right? So like, there's really no upside to them being 5-5 or 4-4 and then putting in Drake, because okay, yeah, maybe you go 9-8 and you get smacked in the playoffs, or maybe he goes 0-6 and then you could have just ruined the kid. Like, just let him be a backup for a year. It's fine. There's no pressure on him, in my opinion, to come in and start or win any games for the Patriots this year.
I mean, I think you're probably right, but that's no fun.
Right.
Like,
but it's the right thing to do,
fun.
Dave.
Yeah, whatever. Well, fuck that. Like, put the kid in. Let's see
like,
him run for his fucking life. I want to see.
But you lived that with Justin Fields. You lived that with Justin Fields, and you loved it, and then you quickly hated it. Because it ruined it.
For the record, I didn't hate it until Caleb Williams was on the table. Like,
sure.
I'm just a little slut.
Which, by the way,
that's just my problem.
He was on the table week 6 of last year for you.
When the Panthers were going to shit. You want to hear a fun fact? We have their 2nd round pick this year. In the same trade. It's fucking the gift that keeps on giving, dude. It's fucking crazy. They might as well be our feeder team. It's wild. Yeah, I mean, look, you're probably right, Mike. But to me, if it's looking like Brissett can lead you to a 7-10 season, and you honestly think Drake Maye can lead you to a 9-8 season, and you're all of a sudden a playoff team again, I mean, you got to take that. You got to take that, right? And like, I don't think that's such a bad springboard. I agree that like, let him sit a year, et cetera, like conventional wisdom, Jordan Love, Aaron Rodgers, I get it. Steve Young, I understand. Pat Mahomes, I get it. I just think that's fucking dumb and boring. Let's see him play.
No, you think it's smart and boring.
Every quarterback you just named and a few moments ago, we're all better than what Brissett is currently.
All
starter.
That's true. There's a reason all those guys are on the bench. You know,
right. No, I'm saying, you were saying like Rodgers, Love, and then Alex Smith was like, come on, like
totally. I mean, but even the Alex Smith year, it makes sense why Alex Smith was the QB, right? Like there was a lot of data that said
you
like
both are agreeing.
Yeah, right, exactly. So it's like that thing of like you don't need to rush him, but at the same time, though, all those examples you're talking about paid off because like those guys learned from like some of the best QBs to ever play the game, with the exception of Alex Smith. But like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I'd rather learn from those guys than learn from Cinder Block. So
speaking of great,
I don't think it's going to move the needle that much. I think that Drake Maye is going to be what Drake Maye is going to be, no matter what Jacoby Brissett does. Like, I don't think that's
Cinder Block, because that's how we run Cinder Block. So
I like him. I like that he won the game for you guys, or well, it didn't lose it for you guys, but I think that like Drake Maye's future doesn't depend on Jacoby Brissett, for the love of God. No, of course it doesn't.
Hey, thank you. That's all I wanted.
Speaking of great quarterbacks,